Well, thank you for joining me. I'm looking forward to talking to you. I had a great conversation with your colleague 2 weeks ago, I think. So
Yeah.
really excited for this.
Good. We really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. I mean, it's great for both of us. I think, it's good to let people know kind of what's going on the recruiting side of things, and also, good for you to, I don't know, something different for you to do. Also, you get to talk a little bit about your personal life, and I don't know.
Well, also it's some neat reflection. I was kind of reviewing some of the questions, and it's really nice to kind of revisit some of your goals and your focus and in your position. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, kind of like I said in our email, it'll be similar to your colleagues, but at the same time, our conversation can go a totally different route. You know what I mean? Because of
because we all have
things. So
unique answers.
yes, absolutely. So that's really cool. But I guess I'll start it off and ask you about your time away from work. So any people who are important to you or hobbies you want to share?
Sure. Well, I'm a mom. I have 2 young kids, and so all my off time, all my weekend time is definitely about the family and doing things that the kids want to do. And we love to get outside, and we like to hike and camp and do that sort of thing. So we're definitely fresh air people.
Yeah.
If I am at home, I definitely like to cook. I like home cooked meals, and so we do a lot of that. We like good food.
Yeah. What's your kid's favorite recipe that you cook? I'm curious to know.
Poppy seed chicken. He's a huge fan.
That's my favorite. That's so crazy that, oh my gosh.
That's definitely a good one. Hands down, that's his favorite. He asks for it all the time. And whenever I make it, he'll say, "Can we eat this every day?"
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. My grandmother always made that for me for my birthday. That's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a great dish. Good for you. And hiking, any trails or any specific, like, I don't know, camping traditions that you guys have?
Oh, sure. Well, we actually really, I try to get it in the cooler times. So May, and then later in the year, like September and October, I'm not really into the super hot stuff, especially with little people. They just can't handle it. And as far as hiking, we live in a great area. It's actually called the Tri-Peaks area. We have Mount Nebo, Mount Magazine, and Petit Jean Mountain here. And so there's a lot of beautiful vistas and places to see. And there's some neat traditions in some of those spots. So that's really cool, the history of it. So I try to mention that to them as well, so they're aware of all the Arkansas history. I just think it's a really great place. It's beautiful here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's great family time, but it's also, like you said, educational. And I totally agree with you. I like to camp as well, and I only will go like September or October. Like, I love it, and I wish I could go all year long, but we're in Alabama. No way. Like, no way.
No humid. There's mosquitoes. Yeah.
Feel like you're swimming outside. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yep.
Well, I guess I would like to hear about some of your education or work history that brought you to TLI, and how those experiences molded you and prepared you for the career you're in now.
Okay, well, I do have a bachelor's in business administration with a focus in management and marketing. I have a background in newspaper work on the advertising side, not the journalism side, but I have an appreciation for both.
Okay.
And I was outside sales, outside advertising. So I was out there on the pavement, hearing no all day long.
Yep.
And, you really have to overcome objections, and you have to kind of roll with it a lot of times. And you have to know that, your product's the best product. And I think that really resonated with me when I came here. I think TLI is a great company. I think we have a lot to offer for a lot of individuals.
Right.
And it also gave me a great appreciation for the business side of things. I think it helps me relate to a lot of our independent contractors. I know they have business goals. I'm familiar with working with business owners. And so I appreciate that. And I understand where they're going from there.
Yeah. A lot of business to business on the outside sales sector. Yeah, I know. When I started out, I was interviewing for those kinds of jobs, like outside sales at a newspaper, but you would be surprised how much the newspaper sector and advertising and marketing intersects. I mean, that's what my job is here, really. They've got me, I'm writing news and doing all that, but at the same time, how can we make this a marketing effort? How can this be advertising as well? So, I mean, it's really cool how all of them intersect. So that's really awesome to hear. And as a recruiter, in a way, and I say this a lot, but you're selling your company to people, selling your company to the people who will be working for it, and not in a gimmicky way, but it's really what you're doing, and it's no different. So that's really cool to hear.
Absolutely.
That kind of leads into my next question. What's been your primary focus in your position? Obviously hiring drivers, but any like specific goals that you've had or will have?
Sure. My main focus is as a team recruiter. I hire a lot of teams.
Okay.
And I would say ultimately my job is to get a good team in a good position. That's going to be a win for the company. That's going to be a win for those individuals. And it always needs to be a good fit, right? So, we are not perfect for everybody. Your job is not to sell the company, as you were saying, to just anybody. You sell the company to people who are a good fit. They want to be here. They'll excel here. That's always our goal. We want good people here.
Yeah. And with teams, I've always been curious, do you find that it's mostly like spouses? Is that usually what it is? Or is it
a lot of spouses? Yeah. And I think there's probably a reasoning for that. They're
for sure.
They have a team goal in mind, right? They're all in it together. But you see a lot of brothers, you see a lot of uncle nephew situations, you see some really good friends. And you've probably had roommates and stuff in the past. It's got to be a good fit. It's got to be somebody you can work with and coordinate with and agree on things with. So I think anybody can team if you have that kind of personality, but a good fit is always better.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and it must be difficult to kind of discern between teams. Like, I know you probably want as many as you can get right, but you talk about a good fit. Like, if you sense dissonance in the team, you're kind of like, oh, I don't know if it would be a good fit for you guys, so I don't know. I imagine that's a really interesting position to be in, to not be hiring just one, but two people and their compatibility. So that's really interesting to hear about.
Sometimes it's more work because you have two different personalities, you have two different people. They might have different goals in mind. One gentleman may have a family at home. He needs more home time. Another guy, he might not need to go home. He doesn't have those kind of goals there. He's out there to make money. And so he doesn't have to have that home time. And, I can come up with one or the other, but ultimately they do have to agree on what they're looking for. Yeah.
For sure. And what are some key components that you utilize in your recruiting approach with these teams?
I try to make somebody remember me, specifically in TLI. I try to make them laugh or try to make something memorable because they talk to a lot of people and there's a lot of great offers out there and they need to know what's unique and what's special about us.
For sure. And what would you say, we talked about compatibility just a second ago, but what draws your eye to a specific applicant or team of applicants, and what makes that team most recruitable to you and your company?
I would say definitely, safety, stability, and location. So if they're not safe, I can't hire them anyway. Right. So we have certain standards. Stability, they need to have if they're hopping around to different jobs, nobody can please them. That's a hard one to sell right there. And we want somebody who's going to be here. Like I said, it's got to be a good fit. And as far as location, if I have the right freight in a certain area, then I can get somebody in and out of the house easily. Home time is not an issue. Keeping their miles up, that's not an issue. There are certain teams in locations where we know we don't have the freight to make it work. I'm not going to bring somebody in that I can't get home.
Right. And I mean, I've talked about this. I'm sure people around me are sick of hearing it, but turnover for a lot of companies is at 100% or more, which kind of boggles my mind. So it's so important, the things you just mentioned, to keep those in mind so that you can get ahead of turnover before, you can make sure that those aren't.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big goal for every company, I think, and it should be an ongoing goal.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, the best way to have drivers is to keep drivers. So
that's right.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Well, what would you say separates TLI from other carriers? What aspect of your company do you find resonates best with drivers you're trying to recruit?
We have a lot of dedicated lanes and dedicated freight accounts. And this creates a lot of stability for people. They know when they're going to be home. They know what they're going to haul. They're dedicated to one account, and so they get to know those customers.
Yep.
And that's very unique in this industry.
Yeah.
It's not a true, OTR type position where you're just
Right.
out there hauling a lot of brokered freight. You don't know what you're doing from day to day. It's created a very unique situation for us.
Yeah. And you talk about home time, and that's always in the top 3 of things that drivers
Yep.
are looking for.
Absolutely.
But, the average age of drivers is obviously getting older and older because younger people aren't coming into the industry. So just like conversationally, do you think that that will become less important the younger the drivers get? Because, obviously we're all shifting efforts towards younger drivers. We have to have them. So do you see that younger drivers are more willing to like stay on the road, stay OTR, or do they both just want to be home a lot?
I see a mix, and that's a really good point you bring up, that home time is more of an issue. This isn't what your grandfather did, right? Where they stayed out on the road for months and months and months. It's a different world. And I think it is because there's a handful of younger drivers coming into the industry, and there are different roles now for dads than there were 30 years ago, 50 years ago. They're a lot more involved, and people will tell you, I have kids, I got to be home. And that's great to hear as somebody who's, a parent. I like to hear that guys have those goals, but I think that's part of the shift, is that used to people stayed out 3 or 6 months, and now you're hearing more and more of, I really need to be home every other weekend. I really need to be home every week. And I think it's more, young people come into the industry, that's going to be ongoing.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, some companies and some people are wanting home daily, and you're like, okay, local, you can stay local, I guess, because that's all we got for you. But yeah, it is something to think about for sure. What is the most common question you get for drivers? Obviously, we've said, home time, they always want to know about that. Pay, they always want to know, but what's something a little bit outside of those that you usually get?
I get a lot of people ask, where we're based out of.
Okay.
And how long we've been in business. And I think they're looking for that same stability. We've even seen, some major players in the business go out in the last 2 or 3 years. It's been a hard world as more and more regulation comes in, and obviously that's for safety, and there's a need for that. But they're looking for somebody who's in it for the long haul as well. And then I think a lot of people have done their time with mega carriers, and they're tired of being just a number, and they're wanting somebody who's smaller and more focused, and they want a true dedicated fleet manager and not a team of people who answers the phone.
Right.
They need somebody on their side.
Somebody that knows them when they call, not just like,
yeah.
Where are you?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think that people coming into the industry, or people applying, or people still in the industry, do you think that there is still like a passion for drivers? We've talked about the young people coming in, and also just people who've been in the industry for a long time. Do you think that it comes from just wanting a job, and it's a good job, kudos to those people as well. But, do you find that people are really still passionate about being in this industry?
I think so. And I always try to congratulate people when they say, I've been driving 20 years or 25 years or 15 years. That's a long time. That's a long time to be in one position. That's a long time to be in one industry. That's a long time to do a job that's very, very hard and often very thankless. And I try to tell people who are new coming into the industry, they're brand new, they're a recent graduate, they've got 6 months or a year, and they'll mention how they're excited to come to our company. And I say, well, congratulations to you, because this is a job that will and could never end. There will always be a need for drivers. And I think that's something that last year really showed us, was the importance of, moving these goods. That's a big deal to have a job that's so stable. And that's how I felt when I came from the newspaper industry. That is not something that's growing, right? This is a job I could have a long time. Transportation is lasting.
I know, Brent's dead, right? No,
yeah, for real.
I'm just kidding. I mean, we still write, but obviously we're switching to video and audio. So,
and that's the big move, is going to web. Absolutely, that's where people are.
That's what we're doing. I mean, my editor, he's been in the newspaper industry. He's a big sports guy. He's been in the industry for, forever, and he is always coaching me in my writing, and getting me to call people and interview people, and it's so exciting, and I love it. I love talking to people, but at the same time, we're shifting our efforts elsewhere as well. So it's a balance, keeping
you change and grow, and
So, I mean, it's good. We're a good team. So I'm glad to have him.
That's great.
But yeah, it's awesome. It's really good. But I'm helping him. I'm trying to get him on a sports podcast, which would be really cool. But we'll see where that goes.
Would be cool.
But yeah.
Well, and what a great situation to be in, to have a mentor like that.
I know. He's
somebody
great.
With those years. Yeah.
He's great. I mean, I can write a press release type thing, in 5 seconds, no problem. But he's really good to point out like holes in the story, where it needs more explanation or something. PR, we're just like, put it out.
Yeah. Give me more.
Yeah, right. But he's very story oriented, which I like. I love. It's good to be under him. But yeah, you talked about we'll always have drivers, and that's definitely true. And this is a little off topic, but not really. Autonomous trucks. Those have been in the news a lot recently. Oh, these trucks. Truck drivers are worried they're going to lose their jobs. I even wrote an article about this. I just don't see it as a real threat, because any of those trucks that they bring in, they'll have to have a driver on board. And if anything, it'll help because you might need to do less, or no less. So I think even in the far foreseeable future, we'll still have a need for drivers, which I think is awesome, and even more of a statement to how stable the industry is. But
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree. There'll always be a need, even for people to help run those trucks and maintain those trucks. And I'm trying to think what they call them, maybe conductors, the people who ride in those automated trucks. I know there's a handful of companies that are offering that right now, but I think they're mostly local type operations, right?
Yeah, I think I would agree with you. There's been a couple that have gone across the country, but it's been very publicized. So I think we would have heard about any more of them.
Trial type thing.
Yes, and mostly I kind of call it a fancy cruise control. Like they can't really get off ramps and on ramps and through traffic very, very well. I mean, like interstate traffic is not a problem for them, and unloading, obviously, what could you even do? So anyway, yeah, I think, and maybe engineers might be what they're called. I don't know, conductor, engineer.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure, but there's always a couple of people on the truck, especially with these big publicized ones. So it's not a concern. My final question for you, my favorite question to ask, what is the weirdest question or request you've gotten from a successful applicant?
That's a good question. I probably get a lot of things that are a little off the wall, and I get new questions all the time. And that's the great thing about dealing with humans, is there's no two alike, right?
Right.
I did have a team ask if they could have a monkey in the truck. And unfortunately, we do not allow exotic animals, but I thought, man, I bet they're really fun as a group, to want a monkey in the truck.
2 people and a monkey. That's awesome. That's really awesome. I love to hear that. Well, maybe their monkey found a good babysitter or something.
Maybe. Yeah. Hopefully.
Hope so. Well, thank you so much for sitting in on this interview with me. I look forward to talking to you again sometime soon.
Yes, ma'am. I really appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.